Hi, this is Ryan, and I'm currently staring at a $325 piece of machined aluminum that's getting absolutely embarrassed by a $50 piece of plastic. Look, guys are out here dropping serious car payment money on these luxury barber-grade trimmers. They see magnetic guard swapping, they see titanium self-sharpening T-blades, and they think that's what stops their beard from looking like a patchy mess. But if you actually take the guide comb off one of these ultra premium trimmers and press it against a simple bathroom scale, it bends. We're talking almost 3 millimeters of flex under just half a pound of pressure, which means when you press that thing against the corner of your jawline, your 7 millimeter guard is suddenly giving you a 4 millimeter cut. So why are we spending $300 just to actively ruin our own faces when there is a sub-anywhere $100 model that physically refuses to flex? We're going to look at the actual physics of a good trim today: motor torque under load, comb deflection, the stuff the spec sheets try to hide. If you're tired of buying things twice, hang out for a bit, maybe hit subscribe, and let's figure this out. I've had this $300 luxury trimmer sitting next to my bathroom sink for about a month now, and I'm not going to lie, the first time you pick one of these up, you totally get the appeal. It's heavy. The casing is cold machined metal. When you snap the magnetic guard onto the cutting head, it makes this incredibly satisfying heavy clack sound. It feels like a tool. You look at the box and it's screaming at you in matte black typography: zero gapped, 8,000 RPM magnetic motor, titanium self-sharpening blades. You read that and think, yeah, okay, this is what the professionals use. Actually, wait, professional is the wrong word. Barbers don't use these. If you go to a real barbershop, the guy fading your neck is using a bruised, corded plastic brick that looks like it hasn't been updated since 1998. No. These new $300 models are prosumer luxury. They are designed specifically to separate guys like you and me from our money by making us think we can buy our way out of a bad haircut.
The marketing around these things is honestly hypnotic. But over the last few weeks, I started tearing down the spec sheets, running real-world stress tests, and tearing apart a bunch of cheaper models to see what the actual difference is. And the math just doesn't add up. Let's start with the biggest lie on the box: the blades. Almost every premium brand right now is pushing self-sharpening carbon or titanium blades. For a long time, I assumed that meant they used some kind of advanced metallurgy. I was sure it was a feature you wanted. I was completely wrong. Self-sharpening is an industry euphemism. It just means the manufacturer stamped out two pieces of cheap steel, didn't bother to hone them, and designed them to aggressively rub against each other so the friction constantly grinds a fresh edge. If you don't oil them religiously, that friction creates microscopic metal dust, overheats the cutting head, and makes the motor work 30% harder. Which brings us to the motor. And this is where the premium illusion really starts to fall apart. Brands love to advertise free spinning RPM, 7,000, 8,000. Sounds fast, right? Like a sports car. Turn it on in the air and it has this high-pitched aggressive whine. But RPM is legally meaningless when it comes to cutting hair. What actually matters, the physics of not tearing your face up, is torque. Here's a reality check. Try running one of these high RPM, low torque boutique trimmers through a dense, wet patch of coarse neck hair. You don't even have to look, you can just listen. The high-pitched whine suddenly drops an octave to this struggling whir. That pitch drop is the motor stalling. The blades are slowing down. And when the blades slow down while moving through hair, they don't shear the follicle, they trap it and they pull it out by the root. You're paying $300 for the privilege of tweezers. But even if you have enough torque, you still have to deal with the comb deflection issue I mentioned earlier. I hadn't even thought about this until I noticed my jawline was always patchy on the right side. I thought I just had bad technique. Then I took the guards from 5 different trimmers, placed them on my digital pour-over coffee scale, and pressed down.
I applied exactly half a pound of pressure, which is roughly what you apply when you're digging into the soft spot under your chin trying to get a stray hair. On the expensive 24 length micro precision guards, the plastic tines splayed out instantly. A guard that was supposed to keep the blade 7 millimeters away from my skin compressed down to barely 4 millimeters. Think about that. You are physically changing the cut length just by gripping the tool harder. And finally, there's the landfill question.
The batteries. If you go on Amazon right now and buy a random $35 dropship trimmer with 1,000 5-star reviews, you aren't buying a trimmer, you're buying a countdown timer. To hit that ultra budget price or to increase margins on the mid-range stuff, manufacturers still use unmanaged NIMH batteries instead of proper overcharge protected lithium ion. I haven't tracked the cycle count over a full year yet, so grain of salt here, but the teardown data is undeniable. A cheap NIMH battery develops a memory. You leave it plugged in, it overcharges, the capacity permanently shrinks, and 9 months later, you have a trimmer that reads 100% on the LCD screen, but dies 45 seconds after you turn it on. So if the cheap Amazon specials are disposable trash and the $300 luxury models are mostly just heavy aluminum with weak torque, what the hell are we supposed to use? That's when I started testing the boring stuff. The stuff you can find at Walgreens. And things got weird. I went to a big box store and bought the most aggressively normal trimmer I could find. The Philips Norelco Multigroom Series 7000. It cost about $55. Honestly, I didn't expect much. When you pull this thing out of the plastic clamshell, it's basically a solid steel pipe. It has some serious heft to it. Actually, wait, that's not entirely a good thing. The metal body is completely smooth, so if your hands are damp from the sink, it's like trying to hold onto a wet bar of soap. It's a genuinely weird design choice. I've nearly dropped it on my bathroom tile twice.
But then I took its standard 5mm guard and put it on the coffee scale. I pressed down to that half-pound mark. Nothing. I pressed harder. It barely deflected a fraction of a millimeter. The plastic they use for these combs is dense, unyielding. It completely destroys the $300 trimmer in the one metric that actually dictates whether your beard looks even. And the motor? It doesn't have that high-pitched scream. It has this low, thudding vibration in your hand. I ran it through a week's worth of thick, coarse neck growth, waiting for that pitch drop I heard on the premium models. It didn't waver once. This is where I started getting genuinely annoyed at the premium market, because Philips is selling this heavy, torque-rich tool with a massive, properly managed lithium-ion battery for $55. Meanwhile, I'm looking at high-end Panasonic models with precision dials in the $80 range that are still sneaking aging NIMH batteries into their chassis. You know the drill with those. You leave it plugged in, the battery develops a memory, and a year later, you're getting 2 minutes of runtime. Or worse, they lock you into a proprietary charging brick. We've all been there. You're packing for a trip, your trimmer is dead, and you're digging through a drawer of tangled black cables trying to find the exact 2-prong adapter that fits your specific device. If you lose that cable, your trimmer is effectively bricked because buying a replacement from the manufacturer costs almost as much as a new unit. Over the last year or so, the market has finally started shifting to USB Circa. It is the single biggest upgrade in grooming tech. But the luxury brands, a lot of them are still dragging their feet, forcing you to keep their bulky power bricks on your counter. I keep focusing on the price tags, but what I really mean is the allocation of engineering. The cheap stuff engineers for the Amazon search algorithm. The expensive stuff engineers for the Instagram ad. Take zero gapping. If you spend 10 minutes on grooming forums, the enthusiast community is obsessed with zero gapping their blades. The $300 models advertise it proudly. For those who don't know, zero gapping is when you manually adjust the cutting blade so it sits perfectly flush with the stationary guard blade. Professional barbers do it so they can draw razor-sharp, exact lines on a fade. So I tried it. I spent 20 minutes with a tiny screwdriver getting the alignment on the premium trimmer mathematically perfect. Then I took it to my neck. Here's the physical reality of a zero-gapped blade on a normal guy's face. Your skin is not a perfectly flat canvas pulled taut by a professional. It has microscopic folds. A zero-gapped trimmer running at 8,000 RPM doesn't glide over those folds. It aggressively bites into them. I was trying to clean up my neckline, and instead it felt like I was dragging a dull pair of scissors across a sunburn. I had red welts for 2 days. We are paying a massive premium for a dangerous barber technique we don't need on a tool that lacks the torque we actually need, using flexible guards that ruin our beards. Let me bring in one more wild card just to prove how backward this industry is. The wall peanut.
It costs about 60 bucks. It looks like a dog chew toy from the 90s. It doesn't even have a battery. You plug it straight into the wall. I plugged it in and flipped the switch. The torque on this tiny, ugly piece of plastic is so violent it physically kicks in your hand when it turns on. It shears through thick hair like a lawnmower through wet grass. It has zero smart features, no screens, no lasers, just raw AC wall power and a rotary motor that will probably outlive me. The $300 models are getting outcut by a smooth metal pipe and a plastic peanut. It's absurd. We've established that spending $300 on a trimmer is, for the vast majority of us, essentially paying for a very nice paperweight. The math just doesn't work out when the fundamental physics, torque, comb rigidity, and battery life are matched or beaten by tools that cost 20% of the price. Okay, let me back up for a second. I am not saying those premium trimmers are badly made. The machining is beautiful. If you're a professional barber cutting 30 heads a day, you absolutely need tools built to that standard of repairability and sustained use. But for the guy standing in his own bathroom twice a week just trying to not look homeless, you are buying the wrong tool. So here's my honest money-where-my-mouth verdict.
If it were my 60 bucks and I wanted a trimmer that I could buy today and basically ignore for the next 5 years, I am buying the Philips Norelco Multigroom 7000. Full stop. The battery life is borderline comical. I've charged it once since I bought it. The steel body feels indestructible, and more importantly, the guards do not flex. It is the absolute sweet spot of the market right now. Yes, the metal chassis is slippery. I highly recommend wrapping a rubber band around the handle if you're using it near the sink. And the blades are proprietary, which means if you somehow manage to break them, you're buying a replacement head from Philips instead of a universal T-blade off Amazon. But considering I haven't seen any long-term durability issues in the reviews, that's a trade-off I'm entirely fine making. Now, if you have a massive lumberjack-style beard and you only trim at the sink, you don't need portability, you don't care about the shower, and you just want raw, unkillable power, buy the Wall Peanut. It is not pretty, it is corded, but it has infinite torque and it will be passed down to your grandchildren. And if you are the guy who strictly maintains a 3mm shadow and you absolutely hate digging through a bag of 15 tiny plastic attachments, look at the Panasonic ERG80S. It has a built-in dial that adjusts the length in millimeter increments. I was initially hesitant because it uses an older NIHM battery, but if you're only running it for 90 seconds a day to keep your stubble tight, the battery degradation isn't going to hit you nearly as hard as someone trying to mow down a full winter beard. Just make sure you run it completely dead every few months to keep the battery healthy. What I want you to avoid at all costs is the ultra-budget $30 Amazon dropship junk that comes with scissors and a cape. You are buying an unmanaged battery that is going to swell, die in less than a year, and end up in a landfill. Stop rewarding companies for making disposable e-waste.
And similarly, avoid anything with a subscription model blade. Tools like the Philips One Blade are great for body grooming, but if you're using it on your face, you are signing up for a $15 tax every few months when those flimsy cartridges wear out. A good oiled steel blade on a traditional trimmer will last years. Which brings me to the final and most underrated piece of advice I can give you. If you already own a trimmer and you're thinking about replacing it because it pulls or feels weak, buy a $4 bottle of wall clipper oil first. Most guys have literally never oiled their trimmers. Put 2 drops on the blades and run it for 10 seconds. The friction drops, the motor speed increases, the battery lasts longer, and suddenly your broken trimmer feels brand new. You don't need a magnetic motor. You don't need a carbon blade. You just need a rigid piece of plastic, a battery that doesn't suck, and a little bit of maintenance. If you found this breakdown useful, hit subscribe. Let me know in the comments if there is another product category you want me to tear apart next, and I'll see you in the next one.